Welcome to this online course in data-intensive scientific computing from the University of Notre Dame. My name is Douglas Thane. I'm a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering.
I'm Paul Brenner, Associate Director of the Center for Research Computing. We've been collaborating for over 10 years on a wide variety of research computing challenges at Notre Dame. In this course, we are going to share some of the lessons we have learned from scientific computing at large scale.
This short course should be useful to students in any major that plan to make use of large-scale computing for research. It should also be useful to computer science students looking for an introduction to how large-scale distributed computing works in practice.
Today, nearly every field of science and engineering depends upon large-scale computing for simulation, data analysis, and exploring ideas that can't be done with physical experiment. This is happening in fields like astronomy, biology, chemistry, physics, and engineering. Even in literature, economics, and political science, research can be conducted through data analysis and simulation.
Now, the sort of computing we're talking about isn't done just on a single laptop or desktop computer, but on hundreds or even thousands of computers that are collected together in data centers. These machines are known variously as clusters, clouds, grids, or supercomputers.
In this course, you are going to learn the basic principles of this sort of computing, which we call data-intensive scientific computing.
Let's begin by looking at some examples of scientific research that depend upon computing. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN is used to study the fundamental laws of physics. It works by accelerating protons around a magnetic ring until they collide together and produce showers of other fundamental particles. Now, there are multiple detectors around the accelerator ring that observe the results of each collision. These detectors are known as CMS, Atlas, ALICE, and LHCb. Each collision can produce hundreds or thousands of new particles, which will light up one of these detectors. But the detector doesn't directly tell us what particles were created. Each detector contains thousands of little components that can respond to one particle that hits it. And so we must use data analysis software that evaluates which components of the detector light up, and then work backwards to infer what arrangement of particles resulted in that output for one event. Now, one event by itself, that is, one event is one collision, one event by itself doesn't tell us much because there are many different ways that particles may be produced. And so the LHC produces thousands of collisions per second, and we must analyze billions of events in order to observe just a few of the rare cases. To analyze all these events, one computer is not enough. Not 100 computers and not 1,000 computers either, but hundreds of thousands of machines grouped together into clusters kept in large data centers. And even one cluster is not enough. The LHC experiments make use of clusters found at universities around the world. So that's hundreds of thousands of machines all around the world, all searching for a rare event like the creation of the Higgs boson. That's data-intensive scientific computing. Computing is also central to modern biology, where the study of the information content of DNA is known as bioinformatics. DNA is known as the code of life. It has a simple structure that can be represented as a sequence of letters, A, G, T, and C. This code gives the fundamental instructions for constructing proteins and everything else that makes up every living being. While the structure and purpose of DNA has been known since the 1950s, it wasn't possible until recently to actually read out an individual's DNA. A machine known as a sequencing device can take a small sample of biological material and through a chemical process read out its DNA and record it as a sequence of letters, A's, G's, T's, and C's. Now, the first sequencing attempts cost millions of dollars just to sequence a single human. But soon it will be possible to sequence for just a few $100s, maybe even in the comfort of a doctor's office. But here's the catch. A human's DNA is one long string of 3.2 billion characters, or base pairs. It would be handy if the sequencing machine could just print out one long paper tape for us. But due to the underlying chemistry, the sequencing machine doesn't do that. Instead, it gives us lots of little snippets, fragments of that original tape all chopped up into pieces, measuring only a few hundred base pairs long. To really get that original DNA string, we have to examine all of those chopped up pieces and put them back together into the original order. This process is known as genome assembly, and it is not unlike assembling a jigsaw puzzle that has millions of pieces. If we attempted to perform this assembly on a single computer, it would take years just to assemble a single genome. Instead, we can parallelize the task across thousands of computers and complete the task in minutes instead of years. That's data-intensive scientific computing. To carry out the large-scale computing needed by these and many other forms of science, we need very large computing machines known as clusters. Fundamentally, a cluster is just a large number of conventional computers packed into a tight space and connected by a fast network. The very largest clusters are known as supercomputers and have hundreds of thousands of cores. Some examples of supercomputers are the Blue Waters machine at the National Center for Supercomputing Applications, the Titan machine at Oak Ridge National Lab, and the Mira machine at Argonne National Lab. But you'll also find clusters of considerable size at nearly every university in the United States and around the world. Here at the Center for Research Computing at the University of Notre Dame, our cluster has over 20,000 cores that are maintained in a data center that was formerly a passenger train station. The cluster is in use at some level 24 hours a day and 365 days a year by users with large concurrent workloads. What was formerly a transportation hub is now a communication and computation hub for the many researchers that depend upon computation at the university. Now you know a little bit about the nature of scientific computing. In the next lecture, we will study how large clusters are constructed.